Have you ever felt deep within that your life was not just a series of random events, but part of a greater plan? That perhaps long before you were born, something or someone chose you for a purpose beyond what you can currently see? Across the centuries, prophets and mystics have spoken of people marked by destiny. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, believed that the soul's mission was written not just in the heavens, but in the very moment of our birth, and that for some, their path was intertwined with a divine calling. According to Cayce, the positions of the planets and the signs under which we enter this life can hold clues to our soul's work, and in certain rare cases, they point to individuals chosen by God to guide, protect, or awaken others. In this video, we will explore 4 zodiac signs that Cayce's readings and interpretations suggest may be entrusted with sacred missions. You might discover that your sign is among them, and if so, you may begin to see your challenges, your strengths, and even your life setbacks in a very different light. By the end, you may realize that what you thought were obstacles were in fact the tools of your training. Before we begin, make sure you stay with us until the end, because we will not just name the signs, but reveal what Cayce believed their divine mission truly is, and how you can align with it. Cayce often described the moment of birth as a spiritual appointment, not a coincidence. In reading 12 and 22:1, he spoke of the planetary positions as records of the soul's journey and indicators of the lessons chosen for this life. This was not the vague horoscope talk you might find in a magazine stand, but a detailed spiritual map of why you were placed here, now, with the specific gifts and trials you carry. The chosen may never be known by millions. Instead, they might be the quiet force that changes the course of a single life, which in turn alters the fate of many. Among the 12 signs, there are 4 that Cayce's insights connect with a heightened sense of responsibility to the divine plan. The first of these is Pisces. Pisces, in Cayce's readings, is often linked to souls who have journeyed through many incarnations, gathering deep reservoirs of empathy and spiritual understanding. In reading 3006:1, Cayce described an individual born under Pisces as one who carries within the memory of many waters and the burdens of those who cannot yet swim. The symbol of the 2 fish, often seen merely as a sign of duality, in Cayce's interpretation points to the ability to live in both the physical and spiritual realms at once. If you have ever been told you are too sensitive or too emotional, and yet you find that your empathy is the very thing that guides you toward helping others, this is not a weakness. Cayce would have said it is your training. Pisces-born souls chosen for a sacred mission are often placed in environments where suffering is visible, where injustice is close enough to touch. This is not accidental. It is so they can develop the strength to act while keeping their compassion intact. Consider a woman in Canada who has always found herself standing between a friend and an abuser, or speaking up when she sees unethical practices at work, even if it costs her career advancement. She may not realize it, but this willingness to stand in harm's way is the work of a guardian soul. Cayce believed that such people have been selected in this lifetime to serve as bridges between the divine and the hurting. The challenge for Pisces is not to lose themselves in the pain they absorb. Cayce often warned that without grounding, such souls can drown in the emotions of others. The mission is not to carry every burden, but to show the way to the shore. Their influence is quiet yet powerful, like a lighthouse that does not chase the ship, but stands steady to guide it home. Cayce also hinted that Pisceans chosen for divine work may experience visions or dreams that are more than personal. They might receive messages, symbols, or warnings meant for others, and it is their responsibility to share them wisely. In a modern world that dismisses such gifts, this can be a lonely task. Yet, as Cayce said in reading 1976:1, loneliness is not the absence of purpose, but the silence before the trumpet call. If you are Pisces, and you recognize these traits in yourself, you may be carrying more than your own life story. You might be carrying a piece of the divine story, one that only you can tell through your choices, your courage, and your compassion. The second sign Cayce's insights point toward in the context of divine selection is Leo. While Pisces serves quietly, often behind the scenes, Leo's mission is different. In Cayce's view, those born under Leo are not placed in the spotlight by accident. In reading 3376-2, he spoke of a Leo individual whose strength was not for self-glory, but for the keeping of order where chaos sought to reign. For Leo, souls chosen by God, leadership is not a privilege, it is a responsibility that carries spiritual weight. Many imagine Leos as simply confident and attention-loving, yet Cayce would say that such traits, when purified, are tools for influence in service of the greater good. The true Leo leader is not a dictator, but a protector. These individuals are often positioned in roles where their presence inspires courage in others. Picture a man in the UK who has never asked for a leadership position, yet whenever trouble strikes at work, people naturally turn to him for guidance. Or a community volunteer in New Zealand who becomes the central figure in rallying resources after a disaster. Such people may not realize it, but their ability to organize, inspire, and push through fear is precisely why they were placed under this sign in this life. Leo's divine mission often involves creating stability where instability threatens to destroy. In times of crisis, they can be the unshakable presence others cling to. Cayce emphasized that when a Leo uses their influence selflessly, they channel a form of divine authority, one that brings order without oppression. However, this calling is not without its challenges. Cayce warned that those born under Leo must guard against pride and the misuse of power. He noted that the greatest downfall for a Leo is when the self becomes greater than the mission. The temptation to control for personal satisfaction can divert them from their higher path. For those chosen, humility is not optional. It is the key that keeps the mission pure. Interestingly, many Leos with a divine calling are drawn to roles that seem unrelated to spirituality at first glance. Business leaders, teachers, public servants, even military officers. Yet, as Cayce would interpret it, the spiritual element lies in the way they wield their authority. If they lead with justice, compassion, and a focus on the greater good, their everyday work becomes sacred service. In our modern first-world environments, where leadership is often measured by profit or popularity, a chosen Leo's life may not look glamorous. They might not have the largest platform or the loudest voice, but their influence is felt in the way they steady others, restore hope, and prevent harm when it matters most. If you are a Leo and you feel the weight of responsibility more heavily than those around you, it may be because you were never meant to lead for applause, but to lead for God's purpose. The third sign Cayce's teachings align with a sacred mission is Scorpio. To the casual observer, Scorpio is often misunderstood, seen only as intense or secretive. In reading 1523-2, Cayce described a Scorpio individual as one who may walk through shadows without becoming lost, and return bearing the light for others. For those chosen, this is not poetic symbolism. It is the reality of their mission. Scorpios with a divine calling are often placed in environments where deception, corruption, or deep emotional wounds are present. They are not there by chance. Their task is to uncover truth, to heal what has been buried, and to face the darker elements of human nature without flinching. This makes them natural investigators, counselors, reformers, or advocates for justice. Imagine a woman in the United States who works in corporate compliance, constantly facing the pressure to ignore unethical practices. She refuses, even when it costs her career opportunities, because something within will not allow her to compromise truth. Or consider a man in Australia drawn to trauma counseling, spending his days listening to the most painful confessions of others and somehow helping them see hope again. Cayce would see these as examples of a Scorpio fulfilling their divine mission. The spiritual danger for Scorpio lies in the temptation to use their insight for manipulation or revenge. Cayce often warned that the same power that allows them to see deeply into others can, if misused, create cycles of harm rather than healing. In reading 197-3, he noted that The one who sees into the depths must choose whether to draw others upward or pull them down. When aligned with their higher calling, chosen Scorpios become guardians of truth in places where lies could destroy. They are the ones who can confront uncomfortable realities without being consumed by them. This ability is rare, and it is why they are often given missions that others would avoid. Scorpio's mission is not always visible. They may not be public figures or celebrated leaders, yet their work shifts the course of events in quiet but powerful ways. In a first-world setting, that might mean exposing a corporate fraud that saves thousands of jobs, or helping a victim of abuse break free and rebuild their life. For Scorpio, the path is demanding, requiring both emotional resilience and moral clarity. Cayce saw them as spiritual warriors in civilian clothing, their victories often invisible to the wider world, yet deeply felt by those whose lives they touch. If you are a Scorpio and feel drawn to confront darkness, not out of vengeance, but to protect and restore, it may be because your soul agreed to this role before you ever entered this life. The fourth sign Cayce's insights suggest may be chosen for a sacred mission is Aquarius. Aquarius, the water-bearer, is often associated with innovation, vision, and a drive to improve society. In Cayce's readings, however, this sign takes on a deeper spiritual role. In reading 1602-3, he described an Aquarian as one who carries the vessel not for the self, but to pour into the fields where the seeds of the future are sown. Aquarius-born souls with a divine calling are rarely content with simply maintaining the status quo. They are drawn to challenge outdated systems, to introduce new ways of thinking, and to unite people across boundaries. This might be through technology, education, humanitarian efforts, or spiritual teaching. Their gift lies not only in seeing what is possible, but in inspiring others to believe it can be done. Consider a man in Canada who feels compelled to create a community project that connects isolated seniors through technology, even though there is little financial reward. Or a woman in the UK who leaves a comfortable corporate job to develop sustainable housing solutions for low-income families. Such actions may seem unconventional, even risky to those around them, yet for the chosen Aquarian, this is the only path that feels truly alive. Cayce recognized that Aquarius often stands apart from the crowd, sometimes even misunderstood by those they seek to help. This isolation is not a punishment, but a byproduct of carrying a vision ahead of its time. In reading 1734-1, he warned that the Aquarian must remain humble and anchored in service, or else their ideas may become driven by ego rather than the divine impulse. For chosen Aquarians, the mission is not simply to dream, but to build. It is about taking the invisible, an idea, a principle, a spiritual truth, and giving it form in the world. This can be challenging in modern, first-world contexts, where comfort and conformity are often rewarded more than visionary risk. Yet, as Cayce's insights imply, the Aquarian soul agreed to take this risk before birth, knowing the road would be uphill. The higher path for Aquarius is collaborative, not solitary. While they may initiate the vision, their mission involves bringing others into the work so that the transformation lasts beyond their own lifetime. For the chosen, success is measured not in personal recognition, but in the enduring good that is left behind. If you are Aquarius, and you have felt the pull toward projects or causes that aim to lift humanity, even when they seem impractical, it may be the sign that you are carrying a divine assignment. You were given the vessel for a reason, and the water it holds is meant to nourish futures you may never personally see. Across Cayce's lifetime of readings, one truth emerged again and again. No soul is placed into the world without purpose. Yet for some, the alignment of birth, the shaping of experiences, and the divine hand of selection point toward a mission that carries weight far beyond the personal. Pisces, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, four signs whose qualities, when purified and directed, can be instruments of God's work in the world. They are not superior to the other signs, nor guaranteed an easier path. In fact, the opposite is often true. Their road is marked with trials meant to sharpen their gifts, tests that push them to choose service over comfort, and moments where they must act even when no one else understands why. For Pisces, the mission is compassion in action, to guide with gentleness and steady faith. For Leo, the mission is righteous leadership, to create order where chaos threatens, to lead without ego, and to stand as a shield for those they protect. For Scorpio, the mission is truth and transformation, to face shadows without fear, to heal the hidden, and to expose deception so light can return. For Aquarius, the mission is vision made real, to bring new light into old systems, to plant seeds of change, and to carry the vessel of hope to a future they may never see. If you recognized yourself in any of these descriptions, it is worth asking. Have you been living as though your life is random, or as though you were chosen? In a world that often rewards distraction over depth, it is easy to lose sight of the larger plan, but Cayce's insights suggest that the moment of your birth was no accident. The sign under which you entered this life may hold clues to the role you agreed to play in God's unfolding story. Perhaps you are a Pisces who feels the weight of others' suffering more than your own, or a Leo who finds yourself taking charge when no one else will. Maybe you are a Scorpio who cannot ignore the truth, no matter the cost, or an Aquarius who cannot help but push toward a better future. These traits are not mere personality quirks. They may be the very tools you were given for your sacred assignment. Cayce once said in reading 1462-3, "The soul is never lost in the service of others, for therein lies its own salvation." If you carry even a spark of recognition as you hear these words, take it as an invitation to step into your calling more fully. You were not chosen to be perfect. You were chosen to be willing, and in that willingness, guided by your sign's divine imprint, you can fulfill a mission written long before the stars first shone above you. So tell us in the comments, do you see your sign among the chosen? And more importantly, do you see your life as part of something greater?